Okay, I think we're live, everyone. Welcome back to Jit Geek. Welcome back to our A Song of Ice and Fire Theory live stream. This is part 2. If you join us in the chat, great to have you with us. Great to be part of the community, and welcome to all the new subscribers as well. It's been an absolute success, part 1, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're all resonating with the video, and there's been so many comments. And it's just great to get your thoughts and opinions and get your theories to put on here. I will be doing a kind of separate stream where we make sure we've covered every theory from everyone who's put stuff in the comments. So keep them coming. Keep the comments coming. We've had one just 10 minutes ago, so absolutely fantastic. Right, let's put on here. We've got I think the sound is looking good. Fantastic. If you join us in the chat, great to have you with us as always. Yes, Varga, great to have you with us in the chat, man. Thanks for joining in for part 2. Part 1 was an absolute mammoth, and we'll be looking at doing the same today. We've got a fair few to go through. I think we're going to tackle Azor Ahai today. I'm buzzing about that one. I love the Azor Ahai theory. I think it's such an intricate theory with the prince that was promised. But we'll get to that because I've got the details lined up. I'm still on the fence as to whether it's the same thing. So let's see. Get your theories in the chat. Let me know what your favourite A Song of Ice and Fire theory is in the chat. If you've got any more to add to the list, let me know, either in the comments or on the chat. Don't forget, we've still got the A Song of Ice and Fire episode community contest going on. So have your say in the community post section. And yeah, I think with that out of the way, I think we're going to get straight to it. I think we'll start off with a couple of smaller ones because Azor Ahai is quite a chunky theory. And I think we'll get the juices flowing first. So let's just make sure. Yep, sound's looking good. If the sound drops off or the quality drops off or anything, just let me know in the chat. I'm following that on my OBS. So let's jump straight into it. First one of tonight, we've got Jojen paste. Now, I've got to be honest. The first time I ever heard about this theory, I was flabbergasted as to what on earth this was all about, what the significance of it was, why on earth this would happen, how on earth they could crush Jojen into a paste, and what that paste would be used for. But a number of great theory channels like In Deep Geek, I know Alt Shift X has done a great one on Jojen paste, and I think Quinn GM has done one as well. And it basically, I think it's a fantastic theory. I mean, for all that, those that are checking out this after the live stream, and for those that are new to this theory, in summary, Jojen and Bran and Mira make it to the wall, make it to Bloodraven's cave. Ogden, thanks for joining us in the chat. Thanks, man. Appreciate the support and the comments earlier. Listen, some of this is off the cuff, man. So, it's not always of the most detail, but yeah, hopefully some sort of opinion came across with the with the Ned and Ashara is John theory. I think we covered that slightly last time. Happy to discuss that though further in this stream. Back to Jojen paste though. I'm in agreement with this, and I think it's likely true. I mean, I don't think, because we haven't got the Winds of Winter yet, I think it's possible that it's not true, and there's only assumption that we can go on. We've got a lot of evidence in the book that we haven't heard from Jojen ever since basically they got to the cave, and Bran has gone through all of that timey-wimey stuff. He's kind of gone through going back in time, seeing all of those different visions. We haven't heard from Jojen since that paragraph, since that chapter, and although that was, I think, although that was still Bran 3 within A Dance with Dragons, I think, as far as I can remember, I think a lot of time has passed since that happened in the book. So, right, what are kind of the clues here? So there's the time factor. There's also the fact that Bran was given, what was it? He was given a paste, basically, and that paste tasted funny, it tasted bloody, it tasted a bit weird. But by the sounds of it, from the text, it also enhanced his magical abilities, and it also enhanced his magical abilities, and he was able to almost kind of do stuff that he hadn't been able to do before. I know he's only just got to the wall, right? And there's a clear case to be had that his powers are infinitely or greater, of greatest power and of greater significance when he's at the wall. But this is where he starts to kick on. This is where he starts to, really enhance his powers and his capabilities. So, truth be told, it is a bit out there, right? Because how on earth can they crush up a body? Is that some sort of magical element that only the children of the forest know how to do? But in effect, the children of the forest have crushed Jojen up and fed it to Bran in some sort of soup. Yeah, and even Vargas tapped in with the comments, made him feel ill, and the veins look more like blood than weirwood sap. So, the text is hinting at this isn't like this isn't a natural element. This isn't like something from the ground. This is either magical or it's Jojen's purpose within the story. Now, I have been watching a lot of Preston Jacobs recently, and one point he made, I think it was Preston Jacobs or it was Quinn GM, one point he made in one of his videos was, we know Hold the Door is going to happen, and that's Hodor's purpose with him coming to the wall. It's also his purpose to bring him to the wall. We've got Mira's role likely in this is to help him escape. But what's Jojen's role? We know Jojen's a green seer, or we know he's got some sort of walking capabilities. We know he's kind of magical, like Bran is. So what's his role in all this? Well, if his role is to basically enhance his capabilities, enhance Bran's, kind of switch them on almost, and I'm just thinking off the cuff here, I know he's at the Weirwood Tree, and I know he's in the north, and I know he's with Bloodraven and the Children of the Forest, but he might have been the catalyst to kickstart Bran's powers. So maybe that's Jojen's purpose in all of this. I know it sounds a bit vile, and I know it's kind of sacrificing a perfectly good human life, but that seems to be Jojen's purpose in all of this, to get Bran to the wall, support that, and then be crushed up for this weirwood paste, or this kind of magical, veiny, bloody paste that activates Bran's powers. I can see that likely being true. We haven't got a lot in likely false at the moment. I think we only touched on the Barbary Dustin one last time. So, right, let's cherry pick some of these. So we've got Robert Strong is the mountain. Let's do that one second. I think it's pretty clear that Robert Strong is the mountain. I mean, we haven't seen Robert Strong. Although, hang on, let's just start again. What we've got here is we've got some evidence against this. So what is that? What is that? Hang on, I'm just checking the chat out, so just bear with me. Let's just put this one back. Let's just check out the chat, because we got Ogden saying Jojen also fits the description of a green seer far better than Bran does. Possible the children lied to have got Bran those powers. You're absolutely spot on there, Ogden. you know, it could be that Bran is just a weak guy that can be manipulated, and it's the children of the forest that have lured, or it's Blood Raven who's lured him to the cave, and it's Jojen's powers that have activated his green seer ability. Now, I know there's the whole kind of history with the Starks potentially having green seer abilities. Now, whether that's a Stark thing from, you know, aeons past, or whether that's to do with a specific part of the lineage kind of later on down the line, I'm not entirely sure about that. But you're right, Jojen is kind of branded as this green seer, where kind of already an established green seer, where Bran is kind of an up and coming green seer, or a very novice one, or even maybe not one at all. I don't, you know, it's so. I'm in agreement there with you, Ogden, that that's another piece of evidence in favour of Jojen activating Bran's powers. Human sacrifice isn't an uncommon thing in A Song of Ice and Fire, so this is most likely true. I agree, Varga. You know, we've got the whole... We know Shireen Baratheon's going to... that scene's going to play out as it did on the show. Mance Raider, I know that was a glamour, and I know it was a false person at the stake, but that was another human sacrifice. We've got the whole Azor Ahai Nisa Nisa thing going on. You know, so a lot of these magical elements have gone some sort of human sacrifice to it. There's the whole... Melisandre always kicks on about King's blood, and the whole magical element of King's blood. Now, whether that's a load of hoo-ha, I don't know, but, you know, again, human sacrifice seems to be heavily linked to magic. So it's not an unlikely thing that Jojen was sacrificed for some sort of magical ritual here. What else have we got? Ogden also saying, also probably a theory that we may never get confirmed. Just seeing him again and learning more about the children. It could be quite possibly right. It could be that, you know, that could happen. It is strange, though, that we get so much of Bran's chapters and so much of Bran's chapter after, you know, after him going into the past and seeing all the visions and stuff. There's so much of his chapter, and yet we don't hear from Jojen. There's no kind of more reference to him. It's not like Jojen kind of ever follows him. He just vanishes, basically, from the story. So, and no one, I don't think, in the fandom has ever come up with another explanation for this. There's no... The one thing that does puzzle me, though, and maybe we will find out this in the Winds of Winter, is the fact that we've got Mira, Hodor, and Bran all kind of, you know, they're all there, but they're not shocked about it. They're not discussing the fact that Jojen's just been ground up into a paste. So that's kind of maybe, you know, an argument against this is, although we haven't heard of Jojen in a while, the other thing is they're not reacting to the fact that Jojen's missing. Now, if I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments, but the last time I read, I mean, I'm from the UK, so A Dance with Dragons is split into 2 books, and I think Bran's is in the first book of A Dance with Dragons. But yeah, I don't think we get reference to Jojen after the visions, nor do I think, though, we get reaction from the team there. So that's why I'm putting it in probably likely true and not true, because I think there's still an argument to be had that he's still there, for instance. Right, let's move on. We were at Robert Strong is the Mountain. I think this is categorically true. Now, cast our mind back to, I believe, again, it was A Dance with Dragons. We had, or it could have actually been A Feast for Crows because of the whole Dawn chapters. But basically, the point I'm getting to is Dawn have been sent this head. Now, it's a massive skull by the looks of it, and supposedly it's that of the Mountain. What we also have, though, is back in King's Landing, we've got the Mountain being killed by Oberyn, obviously through the through Tyrion's trial by combat. We've also got as well no sign of the Mountain, and I know he's dead, but there's kind of no talk of the Mountain. Only this skull that's gone to Dawn. But I'm pretty sure, and I need to check up on this, or maybe you can correct me in the chat, but I'm pretty sure Qyburn is sent to deal with the body, or there's some sort of arrangement with Qyburn to get someone to sort the body out, or Qyburn's there left with the body. I'm pretty sure that that's the case, because as far as I can remember, Qyburn's kind of, and if that is true, Qyburn's the last one to see the Mountain, alive or dead. We know Qyburn's past in terms of necromancy and being kicked out of the maesterhood. We know his fascination with all of the kind of the real weird parts of maestery as well. And I think these are a couple of good pieces of evidence. Now, the other thing is, the description of Robert Strong is a massive guy. He's got a helmet on, an unbelievably huge guy. He's got a helmet on. He looks as strong as, an oxen. And he's all for Cersei. Now, what would be interesting is if he is under Qyburn's control. And yes, Qyburn's saying to Cersei, this guy's all about you. He's all about defeating your enemies. But what would be cool is if Qyburn and Cersei end up having a falling out or end up going against each other. We'll soon find out who Robert Strong's master truly is. Now, it would be great if, if there was some sort of face-off between Robert Strong and Jaime, maybe Jaime protecting Cersei against Robert Strong. That could happen in either The Winds of Winter or A Dream of Spring. What we've also got is... I'm just trying to think of the other pieces of evidence against for Robert Strong being the Mountain. Just checking the chat about this. Qyburn said he was making an undefeatable champion, and it's weird for Cersei to put her trust in someone else she barely knows. Fantastic point from Varga there. You're right, Cersei is quite untrustworthy with her inner circle, and yes, she does trust Qyburn, but I'm sure she would be quite sceptical about bringing someone in, particularly when she basically doesn't trust anyone at the moment apart from Qyburn. So, yeah, probably another good piece of evidence there. But the description I think we're seeing from the text really does point us towards Robert Strong is the Mountain. Absolutely, Ogden. If it looks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, and in this case, it doesn't quack like a duck because he's a mute, but if it looks like a duck and it sounds like a duck and it's got the intentions of a duck, then it must be a duck. Now, there probably are some cases, I'd put true as well. So there are some cases, on the flip side, if it looks like a duck and sounds like a duck, then it, and quacks like a duck, then it can't be, it's not a duck, Case in point, Jon Snow. Does he look like a king? No, he's a bastard. Does he sound like a king? Maybe, he grew up in Winterfell, he's got kind of noble blood, that sort of thing. Does his actions and does his intentions, on the face of it, Jon Snow is not a king, that's what I'm trying to say. But if we look deeper into the text, into the signs, he is a king. So the story's leading us to believe that the mountain is dead and his skull is with the Martells, but the text is, you know, kind of almost contradicting itself by saying we've got all this evidence that Robert Strong is the mountain. Right. Great to have you, so many of you joining us in the chat. Thanks for joining tonight's live stream. If you got any theories you want me to go through, I'm taking a list. I'll take any that you put in the chat, and we'll do them at some point. I'm going to do live streams. Try and do live streams every weekend until this is this list is done. We've also got the community community contest going live at the moment. That's the Game of Thrones and the House of the Dragon best episode community contest. So have your say in the posts. Right, what's the next one? Shall we jump into Azor Ahai? I think we should. So, right, what we'll do is I'm going to leave. So we've got the three. So we've got Daenerys, Jon, and Jaime. Now, where is Stannis? Because I'm just having a look. Right, let's put all the Azor Ahai ones up here. It's got to have Stannis on here. I haven't actually gone through this. I mean, Jorah Azor Ahai, that's a pretty bad theory. Right, for some reason, Stannis, unless I missed it. Just have a quick another look. No, we've got Stannis wrote the pink letter. No, okay, so what we'll do is, I can't edit these for some reason, but we'll use Jorah as Stannis. So we've got Stannis, Daenerys, Jon, and Jaime, all are Azor Ahai. Right, what I've got is here, though, is some supporting... so I've got the Wiki of Ice and Fire up. And I kind of just want to go through first what the Azor Ahai theory is all about. And I've noticed we haven't got the Prince That Was Promised on here. So I think we're going to kind of interchangeably... Well, we'll go through Azor Ahai, and then we'll go through the Prince That Was Promised, because I did a video on this about, probably about 6 months ago, and I'm still on the fence as to whether Azor Ahai and the Prince That Were Promised are the same character. I know they're talked about interchangeably in the text, and I know they're kind of thrown around within the community, within the A Song of Ice and Fire community, interchangeably as well. I'm still on the fence, though. I mean, it's just not clear enough for me. So, what have we got? Let's just find it. So, Azor Ahai Reborn. According to the prophecy, as recounted by Melisandre, these are the indicators of the coming Azor Ahai. After a long summer, when the stars bleed and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world, he shall be born again amidst smoke and salt. He shall wake dragons out of stone. He shall draw from the fire a burning sword called Lightbringer. Right. Also, there is a variant, though. So I've got on here. So that account was mostly from A Storm of Swords and A Clash of Kings. But also, when the red star bleeds and the darkness gathers. So that's Azor Ahai. So that sounds a lot like what we've had contextual evidence just on the prophecy. I'm not kind of linking them to characters at the moment. What we've got is stars bleeding. Well, the only evidence I can think of with this at the moment is the red comet. And we had that in the show. The cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. That screams to me the others, the White Walkers. So this variant of kind of that line there. So when the red star bleeds, so it's star, whereas in the previous sentence, when the stars bleed, so that's stars and that's star. I know we're kind of nitpicking at grammar and you know, the length of words and stuff. But the red star bleeds, so that could indicate the comet again, and the darkness gathers. So that's not as specific as the sentence above. What else have we got then? So, he should be born again amidst smoke and salt. Well, firstly, they've genderized it, so it's a he. And it needs to be born again amidst smoke and salt. So this person is already alive, and they either metaphorically are born again, or they are killed and reborn. Well, we know who that sounds like. But they must be born again amidst smoke and salt. Okay. He again shall wake dragons out of stone. That sounds a lot like dragons being reborn at the end of a Game of Thrones, which is not a he, it's a she. And the final line, he shall draw from the fire a burning sword, Lightbringer. Now, what we have here is an account of what is known as the Azor Ahai theory, but this is Azor Ahai reborn theory. So, what a Wiki of Ice and Fire also says is, if Azor Ahai is the same as the prince that was promised, he will be born of the line of Aerys II and Rhaella Targaryen, according to the Wood's Witch. And that's in Dany's chapter 4 of A Dance with Dragons. What we've also got is, I think this is accounting Rhaegar's speech in, is it A Clash of Kings, when Dany's at the house of the Undying. His is the Song of Ice and Fire, according to Rhaegar Targaryen, and according to Maester Aemon, the word used to describe the prince in the prophecy was gender neutral. While all assumed the prince must be male, Aemon recently believed that the prophecy could point to a female as well. Well, I'm pretty sure Aemon believes it to be Daenerys, as does Marwyn the Mage. What we've also got, though, in A Dance with Dragons is, according to Benero, who is a fire, high priest at the in Volantis, and he knows Makaro, or Maquaro. So Azor Ahai was born from smoke and salt. Azor Ahai will make the world anew. That's a bit generic for me. I think we can I suppose we can dive into that as well. Azor Ahai's triumph over darkness will bring a summer that will never end. Now, I don't think a lot of people have ever kind of latched onto that piece. And the fourth piece we've got here is, death itself will bend its knee, and all those who die fighting in Azor Ahai's cause shall be reborn. Right, I've never actually kind of delved into both of those last two lines, and I think they're really interesting. So, let's just answer the exam question here. So, what we've got is, we've got 4 candidates. We've got Stannis the Manis, and, you know, this is the kind of the quintessential, we've got Melisandre kind of shouting the shit here and telling everyone Stannis is Azor Ahai reborn, because he's got the fiery sword, and I think that's about it. I think, actually, there was the metaphorical reborning of Stannis Baratheon, maybe as the king, I think it was, on Dragonstone. And Dragonstone is surrounded by the salty water, and there was a fire, I think, or a pyre burning at the time, so there was some smoke. Now, let's just check the chat to see, because we've gone through quite a bit there. Now, what other evidence? So, according to Melisandre, Stannis is Azor Ahai reborn. He wields the sword, and yeah, like I said, the ceremony is meant to be his rebirth as Azor Ahai. But that's kind of, you know, that's a bit metaphorical for me. That's kind of not distinct. Is it like a baptism sort of thing? The burning statues of the Seven provide the smoke, and the waves of the shores of Dragonstone provide the salt. Exactly. So Stannis was named Lord of Dragonstone after Robert's rebellion, dragon being a place of smoke and salt. Stannis' parental grandmother is Rhaelle Targaryen, meaning that he has the blood of the dragon, but he wasn't born from the line of the Mad King and Rhaella. So what does that mean? That means that Stannis has got somewhat of a claim to be Azor Ahai. However, he doesn't tick all 4 elements. And I don't think there was a red star that was bleeding on the day. And did he know about the White Walkers? Well, I suppose in the world of Westeros or Planetos, darkness was gathering, so the White Walkers had been reborn, or they were coming back, or whatever we're going to say that's going on with the others at the moment. So he kind of ticks one of those. There's kind of 5 key points, isn't there? So he ticks maybe one of those. So when the darkness gathers, or when the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world, so that's kind of happened. He's born again amidst smoke and salt, so that's happened. He hasn't woken a dragon from stone, but he has drawn a sword from a fire. I mean, it's a pretty... I know people go on about he's Azor Ahai, but judging from that criteria, he's a pretty weak candidate. So, what that latter part, though, of all of this explanation is, though, in terms of... It's clear that he's not the prince that was promised. But this exam question is... I'm going to go with false. Now, I know a lot of people like Stannis, and I think he's a fantastic character. And I love the fact that he's still alive in the books. I do, because he just brings such a different dynamic to the North, to the story. The fact that he's got a really cool Winds of Winter few chapters coming up, with the Battle of Ice against Ramsay. He's still got his claim for the throne. Whether Melisandre still thinks he's Azor Ahai, I don't think she does. What we've also got, though, is... he's clearly not the prince that was promised. So, although this says Jorah, so for those that have just joined the chat, this says Jorah, and I think it's a pretty shit theory. We're going to replace this with Stannis. I think that's false. I think if we replace this with Stannis, Stannis is not Azor Ahai. Right, I think strong contender is Daenerys, and this is likely true, although I don't think it is true. So, what has Daenerys got going for her? When the stars bleed, so we had the whole comet. I'm sure she was born with the comet, I think, or, yeah, please correct me in the chat if she wasn't born beneath the comet, the red comet in the sky. The cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. Well, the darkness is gathering, so the red star bled and the darkness is gathering. He or she shall be born amidst smoke and salt. Well, again, Daenerys was born on Dragonstone, so what we've got there is, some sort of, there's got to be some sort of smoke or some pyre or some fire going on in Dragonstone, and the saltiness of the water crashing on the shores. He or she will awake dragons out of stone. Absolutely triple tick there from Daenerys. She's absolutely woken dragons out of stone. I mean, at the end of Game of Thrones, we had the whole pyre with Mirri Maz Duur, with Khal Drogo, and she put the dragon eggs into the pyre. At the end of it, they hatched 3 dragons. Fantastic. So, he should draw from the fire a burning sword named Lightbringer. Now, whilst we don't have any evidence at the moment that this hasn't happened for Daenerys, you could argue that the dragons, or maybe Drogon, is Lightbringer, because she drew from the fire a sword or a weapon, a burning weapon. You could kind of change the text to fit a dragon or the dragons. So, in my eyes, Daenerys kind of answers most of those. So, it could be true that she is Azor Ahai reborn. What we've also got is the evidence that Aemon thinks she's Azor Ahai reborn. Mara and the Mage thinks she's Azor Ahai reborn. I think Quaithe also thinks she's Azor Ahai as well. So she's got it. She's got that going for her there. Now, if we look at the prince that was promised, I've just realised I've made a mistake there. It's not the prince that was promised that is gender neutral. It's Azor Ahai that is gender neutral. Sorry, it's not Azor Ahai that's gender neutral. It's the prince that was promised is gender neutral. So maybe Melisandre saying he shall be born amidst smoke and salt. Maybe that term is not gender neutral. Is not gender kind of fluid. It is all about a person being a man, being Azor Ahai, which categorically rules Daenerys out, I suppose. But if we look at the prince that was promised, he's born of the line of Aerys and Rhaella. Well, that absolutely ticks the box for Daenerys. His is the Song of Ice and Fire, according to Rhaegar. That's a big cross for for Daenerys, because Rhaegar was clearly talking about one of his children. Although there is an argument to be had that what he we'll scrap that thought. It's pretty clear, I think, actually, that vision in the House of the Undying is Rhaegar with his son. We don't know if it's Aegon the Sixth. We don't know if it's Jon Snow, because I think Jon Snow, R plus L equals J. Now, thirdly, according to Maester Aemond, the word used to describe the prince was gender neutral, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so Aemon recently came to believe the prophecy could point to a female. Okay, so Bonero, let's just touch on that. Born from smoke and salt, tick. Will make the world anew. I mean, that kind of ties in with Dany's aspirations, really. You know, I can't remember if break the wheel is just show, but, you know, kind of take over Westeros, reclaim the throne. She wants to be this ruler. She may make the world anew through her rule. So, you know, you could lightly tick that. What we've also got is Azor Ahai's triumph over darkness will bring us summer that will never end. Death itself will bend its knee, and all those who die fighting in Azor Ahai's cause shall be reborn. Now, this is the part that I want to touch on, because death itself will bend its knee. Now, that could mean a number of things. She defeats death, and death personified in this is, for me, it's explained that it's the others. You know, it's trying to say that the others are the baddies and the rest are fighting against the others. Death itself will bend its knee, and for all those who die fighting in Azor Ahai's cause shall be reborn. Now, you could argue there that some form of White Walker Night King type role, that kind of fits the bill there. So death itself will bend its knee, because these guys can't be killed, or can they? I don't know. And for all those who die fighting in Azor Ahai's cause shall be reborn. Well, we've clearly seen that's the case in the show and in the books. The dead being reborn. We should have on here, actually, some form of Night King, although I don't think the Night King is in the books, mind you. But I think you can see where I'm going with this. Some of the wording really ties in with some of the stuff that the White Walkers can do. So, is Daenerys Azor Ahai? Likely true, but I don't think categorically true. Right, before we get on to John and Jamie, let's just quickly check the chat. What's up, Big Baby J? How's it going, man? Thanks for joining on the stream. Appreciate you having this. Appreciate you joining in. I'm good, man. Hope things are well too. Buzzing for your stream tomorrow as well, so I'll be checking that out. Now, what we've also got is Ogden saying Comet was definitely early season 2 for the show. Yes, it was. Can't remember if it was during Daenerys or shortly after. Yeah, I'll have to check up on that one, you know, Ogden, because, you know, the Comet, the Red Star bleed is definitely there's definitely some sort of metaphorical play on words there with the comet. Right, interestingly enough, a wiki of Ice and Fire hasn't got Jaime Lannister down as Azor Ahai. I mean, we can go through the criteria again, and in all fairness, I can't really see much. The only thing that we get now, I'm going to get to a prince that was promised in a sec. I think the only thing the only kind of piece of evidence in the text that we've seen so far is when Jaime is it when he was captive and he touched the weirwood tree? He had that prophetic dream of him being atop of the wall with a burning sword. Now, that's pretty weak evidence for Jaime to be Azor Ahai. What we have, though, is if Azor Ahai is the same as the prince was promised, which I don't think it is Jaime the prince that was promised? So, if the theory is true, now I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but if the theory is true that Aerys and Joanna Lannister are Jaime's and Cersei's mom and dad, it could be that he slightly fits this bill, being he's born of the line of Aerys and Rhaella. Now, I know it's categorically Aerys and Rhaella, but maybe the Woods Witch got that wrong. Maybe it's just the Targaryen lineage that you need to be born of, or Aerys II's lineage. Because obviously, if Aerys is their father and they are kind of part Targaryen, that would maybe put them in the stead of being the prince that was promised. So, look, very, very weak play on words. Very, very weak argument here. Not for the fact that Cersei and Jaime may be a Targaryen, which would be cool as fuck in my eyes. That would be an unbelievable revelation, that would. But he's got a pretty weak argument for him to be Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised. Now, I can't see the link between the smoke and the salt, unless there's some sort of piece of evidence in the text that describes their time and place of birth and what Cersei and Jaime, kind of what the environment was when they were being born. Azor Ahai will make the world anew. That's so generic, that piece. Azor Ahai's triumph over darkness will bring some of that will never end, and then the whole death itself will bend its knee piece. I can't see tying him with Jaime there. So I think we're gonna put that as false. I think not Jorah. Jaime is not, in my eyes, Azor Ahai. Right, what we've got though is my candidate for Azor. Well, I think it's the strongest candidate for Azor Ahai. Now, after a long summer, when the stars bleed and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. Well, it was cool how they did it in the show. The whole Arthur Dayne's sword was by the bed, and Arthur Dayne, the Dayne sigil is a bleeding star, or bleeding stars, shall we say. And they did a great flashback in the show with the sword being at the bed of Lyanna Stark. Now, you could argue that that's a tick, right? Because at the time, the stars were bleeding. I.e., who do we have? We had Arthur Dayne. We've just had the battle of what's it called? The Tower of Joy. And it's clear that either Arthur dies there. Now, how he dies is a different story, but it's kind of implied that he dies there. So a red star or a star is bleeding, and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. Jon is fully aware that the others are coming. So in his eyes, the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. Darkness is gathering. He should be born again amidst smoke and salt. Now, we haven't got this yet because he hasn't been born again. And I think when we get the Winds of Winter, when we get Jon being resurrected, I think what we'll have is tears, and we'll have a fire. Now, the reason I think we'll have both of those is because in order to bring Jon back, either inconsequentially or in aid to use Shireen Baratheon's king's blood to bring him back, I think there will be smoke from the burning of Shireen, and I think there will be salt from the tears of Shireen, or either I think Shireen's mom is with her at the wall still. So I think we're going to have a lot of tears when that happens as well. Because my God, that was a pretty gruesome and it's brilliantly done in the show, and kind of the emotion was there. But it is a pretty gruesome scene. And I think both of those together, massive 2 tick boxes there for Jon. Now, he should wake dragons out of stone. I'm on the fence as to how we match Jon to this. And the only thing I can come up with is the fact that, when you die, you go as hard as stone. And when he comes out of that, that state of being dead, he will be reawakened as a dragon. So by him being reborn from a cold stone-like state, he will have either become a Targaryen, either both through looks and behaviour, etc., or whilst he's either in Ghost, or Bran walks into him while he's dead, or within Ghost, because I think Ghost is linked to Bloodraven, and obviously Bloodraven's now linked to Bran. I think Bran or Bloodraven will walk into Ghost, and maybe there's some flashbacks, or maybe there's some sort of revelation where one of those two tells Jon through the eyes of Ghost his parentage, and I think he is woken from his state knowing he is a dragon, knowing he's a Targaryen. That's the only thing I can come up with that kind of hinges Jon on that sentence. Lastly, we've got he'll draw the fire from a burning sword, Lightbringer. Now, I know Alt Shift X did a great video, the real Jon Snow video, and at the end of it, he talks about drawing his sword from basically stabbing Drogon, or stabbing one of the dragons, and that sword being put on, turning on fire. But what I kind of want to get to is, I just want to recap I do want to quickly recap about the Nissa piece of all this. Nissa prophecy. So, according to prophecy, our champion... So this is like heavily linked to R'hllor. It's got to be, yeah. Our champion will be reborn to wake dragons from stone and reforge the great sword Lightbringer that defeated the darkness thousands of years ago. If the old tales are true, a terrible weapon forged with a loving wife's heart. That was Thoros of Myr. Right, Salador Asan tells the legendary story. Darkness lay over the world, and Azor Ahai was the hero chosen to fight against it. To fight the darkness, Azor Ahai needed to forge a hero's sword. He laboured for 30 days and 30 nights until it was done. However, when he tempered it in water, the sword broke. When he was not... the second time he took 50 days and 50 nights, even better than the first. To temper it this time, he captured a lion and drove the sword into his heart. But once more, the steel shattered. So has he done either of those? Has he put his sword into water? I don't think he has. Has he put it into fire? Into a lion? Has he killed a Lannister? Because that's a great play on words, that is, by George Martin. Now the third time with a heavy heart, for he knew beforehand what he must do to finish the blade. He worked for 100 days and 100 nights. This time he called for his wife and asked her to bare her breast. He drove his sword into her breast, her soul combining with the steel of the sword, creating Lightbringer. And I'm pretty sure that wife is Nissa Nissa. Now, has he done either of those two prerequisites? I don't think he has. I mean, you know, it could be that he stabs a dragon and the fire comes out burning. It could be that he stabs Daenerys because they're in some sort of political allegiance or political marriage. Or maybe there's something else. I mean, it'd be great to know your thoughts in the comments, because the whole... I don't know which sword he's going to use. Is he going to use Longclaw? Is he going to use the Sword of the Morning? It's tough, right? I mean, I'm just looking through the Wiki of Ice and Fire again. Some more evidence from the books. John's wounds at the end of the Dance with Dragons were smoky. There was crying, and yeah, there was star-laden heraldry in the air above. Well, that's an interesting bit of text. So when Melisandre looks into her fires for Azor Ahai, she sees only things to do with Jon or snow. And I'm pretty sure one of the chapters, she said, when I think of Azor Ahai, or when I look for Azor Ahai, all I see is snow, but it's got a capital S, which implies Jon Snow. Jon Snow has had dreams where he fights the others with the red sword burning in his hand. Yes, he has, at the top of the wall. If having the blood of the dragon is a prerequisite, Jon's father may be Rhaegar Targaryen and would satisfy that prerequisite. He would also be the great grandson of Aerys and Rhaella. Yes, so he ticks those boxes. What have we got here? There's a bit about Jon and Ygritte being similar to Azor Ahai and Nissa Nissa, but I don't think that's correct. So what have we also got? So he's born amidst smoke and salt. He'll make the world anew. I mean, if he defeats the others, or he kind of crafts some sort of pact or becomes king, he could absolutely do any of those to make the world anew. Azor Ahai's triumph over darkness will bring us some of that will never end. I mean, maybe. I don't like that one though. That piece from Bonero. Death itself will bend its knee. Yes, it will if he defeats the others. And all those who die fighting in Azor Ahai's cause shall be reborn. I mean, maybe that's true because they'll be reborn by the others. I mean, he's the best candidate for Azor Ahai, right? But just because he's the best candidate, I'm on the fence, right? Because just because he's the best candidate, does that mean Azor Ahai is even true? What I do believe is Jon is the prince that was promised. He's born of the right lineage. I think Rhaegar was talking about Jon in his in the House of the Undying. Yeah, there's the whole Maester Aemon piece. But I think, in my eyes, Jon is the prince that was promised. It just so happens that he also fits the bill for Azor Ahai. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I've got this wild theory that the prince that was promised is a Targaryen or a Valyrian prophecy. I've got a feeling that Azor Ahai is not. I've got a feeling it's different, it's separate, and it's more of a R'hllor thing, it's more of a religious thing, it's more of a what were the other names for it? I think it's more a name for a saviour that will defeat the others. But I think it's a fire only kind of warrior, champion of fire. You know, the warrior of light. Light and fire all connects, right? At the same time, I think the prince that was promised is a Targaryen-only prophecy, and I think it's only to do with Targaryens. Why is it only to do with Targaryens? I don't know. Maybe there's some you know, they are kind of the key family within the A Song of Ice and Fire novels. So is Jon Azor Ahai? He fits the bill. And does that mean if he fits the bill, it's true? Well, he's the best candidate. So because of the theory, I'm going to say it is true. Although I don't like that theory, that he is Azor Ahai. I think he's the prince that was promised. In fact, I'm going to swap these around. I'm going to say Daenerys is Azor Ahai, and Jon is likely Azor Ahai because he fits the bill, but I think he's more the prince that was promised. Man, that was a big one. How are we all doing in the chat? Thanks for the support today. Great to have you all with us. Hope you're enjoying the content on Jit Geek. Now, what have we got next? I'm going to have to figure out what this is. That could be Rhaegar and Joanna equals Tyrion. But I'll confirm that one. I think likely false, what we've got. So let's kick on with another one. Likely false, Euron Greyjoy equals Dario Naharis. Now, again, I think Alt-Shift-X did a video on this. I think a few others did a video on this. I thought it was an April Fool's video but it turns out there's a fair bit of evidence, loose evidence, should I say, that Euron and Dario are the same person. So Euron is Dario. I'm just on Reddit here. So physical appearance, both have blue eyes. Euron's location was unknown during Dany's conquests. Dario wasn't in Meereen during Balon's assassination. Euron brought a huge amount of swag to Kingsmoot. Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty loose, right? I mean, at the end of the day, this character is, you know, you could say that about anyone. I think this is an April Fool's joke taken a bit too far. Again, though, if there's any kind of real strong evidence to this, let me know in the comments. The reason I'm going with likely untrue is because someone's gone out of their way to get a lot of evidence to suggest that Euron and Dario are the same person. But I think it's likely false. What I do like is, and what I think is likely true, is Arbor Gold equals lies. So to try and summarise this theory, what we have is in the books, and I think it's primarily within King's Landing or within kind of like the political elements to this story, what we have is anytime Arbor Gold wine is brought up, referenced, drank, sold, brought, anything like that, there is an indication that the person talking is lying. Quinn, the GM, did a fantastic breakdown of this, and the evidence is pretty much there that whenever Arbor Gold is referenced within the story, within the text, that person is lying or there's a lie taking place. I think it's a fantastic theory drummed up by the community here, because it could be absolutely, you know, it just could be absolute waffle. It could be absolutely false. It could just be a coincidence. But I absolutely think that there's, and it just kind of adds to that Game of Thrones vibe, that political element, and I think it's likely true. What I'll do is I'll put not for you to scurry away and to go and watch it, but what I will do is put Arbor Gold lies theory. I'll put a link to so let's put that in the chat. if you want to go and check that out. So that's Quinn, the GM video on Arbor Gold equals lies. Great video, that is. Breaks down all the different elements. I mean, let's just see if we can find the evidence here. So Tyrion's allowed. Oh, hang on. So Arbor Gold equals sign of lies. So Littlefinger uses the lies and Arbor Gold line, and uses the wine to convince the Lord's declarant of the Vale to side with him, when in fact he's playing them against each other and being duplicitous and suspicious, and he's probably not telling the truth because he's got his own master plan. What we've also got is Tyrion is allowed to drink a bunch of the quality wine at Illyrio's house, and he's probably being fed a bunch of lies. We've got Sansa pours Arbor Gold for Tyrion on their wedding night. Most people would assume that wedding is a lie, and they are lying that they're both happy maybe, or they've consummated the marriage. Wyman Manderley tells the people present for the Ramsay Arya wedding to wash it down with Arbor Gold, right when he's serving Frey pies disguised as pork pies. I think that in the Quinn GM video is the critical piece of evidence there. Tiana gives some Arbor Gold to Cersei. Tiana, who's obviously playing both sides or spying on her. I think that's a great piece of evidence. You never know. It could be that Tiana's maybe she's working for the Tyrells, maybe, or the Dornish, the Martells. Olenna Tyrell seems to be lying or manipulate over some. I think there's some reference to do with Olenna Tyrell and drinking wine when she's manipulating someone. Hisdar. Oh no, so we do have reference actually with Hisdar in Meereen. Hisdar develops a taste for it in Meereen, although most certainly not being truthful to Dany, it could point to the misleading conclusion that he's a harpy and he's not. He's lying because he's a harpy. He's not lying because of Arbor Gold. But actually, that's still within kind of a political, political part of the world. It's political story arc. Let's just have a look if there's any more. It's used to toast Joffrey's health at council meetings, when in fact no one gives a shit. So here's the last one. Aegon, who is almost certainly not a real Targaryen, claims that Varys paid the switching father with a jug of wine, Arbor Gold. That's a decent piece of evidence for it as well. So we've got multiple layers there to that one. And although there are a lot of examples, it could just be coincidence, right? It could just be that... it could just be that people are just lying and they just so happen to be drinking wine at the time. So I'll put that as likely true, because I do think it is likely true, although we can't tell for certain that it is true. Okay. Right, sorry, just getting a message from the wife. Okay. Right, what's next? What is next. Right, let's go back to it. If there are any specific theories you want me to go through, pop them in the chat and we'll prioritise them. Appreciate all the love and support. Appreciate the likes and the comments in the chat. Great to have you with us on this Saturday night, Saturday afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Let me know where you are. Right. Some of these are terrible, though. I've got to be honest. Okay, so let's go with Joffrey's poisoning. Okay, so the Purple Wedding. So Tyrion poisoned Joffrey, Cersei poisoned Joffrey, Joffrey poisoned himself. All false. The reason, in my eyes, is, and I think this is true, Joffrey's poisoning was a group effort. So in the show, we had that fantastic scene, season 4, episode 2, I think, The Lion and the Rose, or episode 3. Absolutely brilliant part of season 4 that was. And looking back, it was, to me, it was clear, and especially from A Storm of Swords, the book as well, it's clear that Peter Baelish had something to do with this. And from the show, Olenna Tyrell had something to do with this. And I always remember the explanation I've heard, and I can never remember where I've heard it, which is Olenna Tyrell wouldn't want her daughter marrying Joffrey Baratheon after seeing what he did to Sansa and hearing the stories of how badly he treated women. Now, Olenna and Marjorie would have been powerless against Joffrey. And I absolutely think that by killing Joffrey, you still retain Marjorie as Queen of Westeros. You give the Tyrells much more power. You eliminate almost the biggest threat in terms of your family and your lineage and your daughter. But also, he was pretty chaotic, Joffrey was, and he could have done anything right. He could have took the realm, he could have took King's Landing, he could have took the crown, he could have took that marriage in any number of different directions. And Peter Baelish saw this as an opportunity to work alongside Olenna Tyrell to poison the king. Now, the reason I think that, well, probably a few pieces of evidence. One, chaos is a ladder, and by killing Joffrey, you create a shitload more chaos within King's Landing and a shitload more chaos within the Game of Thrones. Also, I'm not being funny, I don't think Olenna Tyrell could have done this herself. We've got Peter. I think also, I think he probably would have had more of an opportunity to put the poison or hide the poison on Sansa, much like they show in the much like they kind of illustrate in the show with Olenna Tyrell kind of picking it off Sansa's necklace. Now, I can't remember, you have to correct me in the chat there, but whether that's true or not in the books, Tom read Storm of Swords was an absolute mammoth time ago, so that detail I can't remember. But at the same time, it offers Peter Baelish an opportunity, an excuse to snatch Sansa away, take Sansa away from Tyrion, from King's Landing, and enact on his, not only on his plans to be with Sansa, but enact his plans to have Sansa marry Harry the heir and gaining control over the Arryn, but then also gaining control over Winterfell and the North. So you can see it's kind of the breadcrumbs. The more and more you kind of start to unpick this, the more and more it's clear for me that it was a combo between Baelish, maybe even, is his name Dontos? Probably even him as well, and Olenna Tyrell. Now, I don't know any other Tyrells that would have been involved. I don't think that's implied within the text. What we've also... yeah. Right, sorry about that. Just back now. Let's... right, so just to round that off, poisoning Joffrey was a group effort. Absolutely true, I think. In fact, I think it's absolutely true. But actually, if we're going by these standards, I think it's more probable that it's likely true. I don't think Tyrion did it, although he was, you know, the text and the trial is led us to believe. I don't think there's a scrap of evidence out there that suggests he did it himself or Cersei did it. The only other candidate I could probably think of is Peter Baelish himself, or Sansa to get back at him, or Oberyn Martell, because at that point he's in King's Landing, he's got a massive grudge against the Lannisters, and he's an expert in poisons, so there's a potential there for Oberyn to have done it. Right, how long have we been going? Hour and a quarter. Right, okay, I think we'll do a couple more and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. Right, what have we got here? So, just clocked a good one. Since we've spoken about this already, I think we'll touch on this. A plus J equals J plus C. Now, I think... this is one I'm on the fence about, so it's like literally between likely true and likely false. I would love this to be true. I just think it's such a cool theory, and I'll get into what it is in a moment. Do I think it's true or false? Now, I would like it to be true, but I think it's likely false. Now, A plus J equals J plus C. We alluded to this earlier on the stream. So this is Aerys Targaryen, so the Mad King, and Joanna Lannister equals Jaime and Cersei. What a fantastic theory this is. And I'm going to get some evidence for this. Now, the one piece of evidence is the World of Ice and Fire seems to imply that there's an affair between Aerys and Joanna. And whether that results in the birth or the pregnancy of Jaime and Cersei, I just need to double check that. So when were Cersei and Jaime born? So Cersei was born in 266 AC, and the World of Ice and Fire implies that there was an affair between Aerys and Joanna between 259 and 265, which absolutely fits the time frame. So that's one piece of evidence. Secondly, Jaime and Cersei are blonde of hair. Now, yes, this is a Lannister trait, but what we also could have is this could also be blonde and Targaryen silver, or Targaryen white, or Targaryen kind of coloured hair at the same time. What we also have is a lot of evidence, though, against this. Now, although Aerys took liberties with Joanna, and I'm just reading here, Forum Ice and Fire. Queen Rhaella at the time dismissed Joanna Lannister from her service not long after Joanna's bedding ceremony. Hang on, I don't know why they've brought that up here. Aerys and Joanna, it's likely that Aerys fathered any of her children. She was dismissed shortly after her marriage to Tywin. Ah, right, okay. So she was... Although there seems to be an affair between Aerys and Joanna, it's likely that Aerys fathered any of the children. She was dismissed shortly after her marriage to Tywin in 63. Right. Okay. So that's likely false. Right. Okay. And Jaime and Cersei were born in 266. That was what we've just done. So, in all fairness, actually, on reflection, that's probably likely false. Now, I think one of the best arguments to be had is Aerys and Joanna are Tyrion's parents. Now, let's break down that evidence. So, Tyrion has got a dark eye, and it's argued that could be a purple eye, like Targaryens. He's also got, I'm sure it's mentioned in the text that he's got white blonde hair. He's also had that part of A Dance with Dragons when he went to visit the dragons, and they were quite timid. They were quite, not playful, but they weren't doing a kind of a Quentin Martell, and they weren't blowing him up. They weren't kind of setting him ablaze. He actually got on quite well with them. They seemed quite at ease with Tyrion. What else? We've also got the slight hint that he's built a chair to ride horseback for Bran when he's got no legs. But that could also imply that he's built a chair to ride Dragonback. He has dragon dreams as well. There's a lot of mention, a lot of evidence in the text around him referencing dragons, particularly when he's playing Syvass as well. I think it probably also fits thematically. He could be the third head of the dragon. The outstanding dragon of Daenerys is 3. So we've got Drogon, who is clearly linked to Daenerys, being I think black with, maybe the red of fire that links to the Targaryen sigil. We've got Rhaegar, who we've got let's just bring Daenerys's dragon names up. So we've got Drogon. We've got Rhaegal, who is heavily linked to, Rhaegar, named after Jon. But also, let's just see what colour Rhaegal is again. So his is a yellow-orange coloured, green and bronze scales. I mean, Rhaegal is clearly a reference to Rhaegar. And then what we've also got is, what was the third one now? Viserion. But I think Viserion is white and red. Viserion colour, yeah. So this says cream. So the majority of Viserion's scales are cream, but his horns, wing bones, and spiral crest are gold by colour. I mean, that just screams Lannister. His teeth are shining black, his claws are black, his two paws are molten gold, and his flame is pale gold shot through with red and orange. That is 100% a reference to Lannister gold, Lannister colours. So, do I think Aerys and Joanna's Aerys and Joanna are the parents of Jaime and Cersei? No. Do I think they're the parents of Tyrion? If we had that here, which I don't think we've got, I would be putting that in true. I reckon I love that theory, and I think having Jon and Tyrion and Daenerys are the three heads of the dragon, all being Targaryens, all coming from some weird and wonderful backstories, and all having major links to all three of the dragons, I think would be so just, it would, I know we can't say it would be cool, but it, you know, it makes sense within the text. To me it does anyway. Right, a few more and then we'll I think we're going to call it a night. I know we've only gone through a few, but I'm not looking to get through every one of these tonight. I think it's going to take another good couple, 2 or 3 more live streams, but more excuse to live stream for you all. So let's just let's end with another good one. So I don't know where people get this idea that Roose Bolton is an immortal vampire. So I'm just going to put, I don't know enough evidence for that to understand that one, but on the face of it, I believe that to be false. Please have your argument with me in the comments. So let's finish off then with one being the poison locusts. I think this is true. I think the poison locusts were definitely set for Daenerys and were eaten by strong Balwas. Now, who put the poison locusts there? I mean, it could have been, is it Reznak Mo Reznak? Or it could have been Hizdar. It could have been either one of those. I always get the Shave Pate and Reznak mixed up. Reznak Mo Reznak. Right, so Reznak could have been the one to poison the locusts. Hizdar could have been, although the text seems to point towards Hizdar and seems to point towards Hizdar being the harpy. Again, it's probably, I mean, it would make sense that Hizdar is the harpy. I don't think there's enough evidence to suggest that he poisoned the locusts, because I get the impression he wanted to rule with Daenerys, and he wanted, but there again, maybe he thought because of the marriage that through marrying Daenerys, you kind of win her titles, her men, her dragons as well. Maybe that's an argument to be had, that Hizdar poisoned the locusts. But judging by the text, Reznak Mo Reznak, there's a question to be had whether he's the harpy. Daenerys in the House of the Undying was told to watch for the perfume seneschal, and that is 100% Reznak. He wanted Daenerys to marry Hizdar, implying that maybe if Hizdar did marry Daenerys, we could kill Daenerys off quite quickly and, you know, get her armies and things like that. Now, what's to say that I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that Strong Belwas had anything to do with this and felt guilty about knowing about the poison locust. I don't think there's any evidence, any text to say that that was the case. I think he just ate them out of the fact that he's a greedy bugger, and it's probably the only character in the book that could have eaten those and still been alive. So again, I'm going to probably move this to likely true instead of true, because I think we'll only find it could be one of those where we never ever find out about who poisoned the locusts, but it could come out in the Winds of Winter, and it could be quite obvious as to who's poisoned the locusts. I don't think we've had George Martin come out and say that we'll have a resolution to that in the Winds of Winter. Right, let's do one more, and then we'll call it a night. Next Start lives as a pigeon. I mean, Next Start, mate. No, I think that's definitely false. Clegane Bowl. Theoretically, it kind of makes sense for that to go ahead. But thematically, it's like, I think the Hound is being set up as this man of peace going forward, and he's not looking to solve his issues through fighting and through revenge. Although we could have a bit of a twist at the end, and he kind of chucks all that out throws all that, the baby out with the bathwater, and just thinks, fuck it, I'm just gonna get my own back on Robert Strong. I read this theory the other day, and it was similar to this, where the Hound comes back to fight in some sort of trial, and is the High Sparrow's champion against Robert Strong. And that's where they have Clegane Bowl, and that there's basically a trial by combat for Cersei versus the Faith of the Seven, and it's the Hound versus Robert Strong, and maybe that's how he finds out that he's got his own back on his brother. That could potentially happen. I mean, that's still on the cards, but I think thematically, this is going towards Sandor Clegane having the opportunity for Clegane Bowl, but choosing to look past it, choosing against it, choosing against violence, choosing against peace, and putting his past behind him with his brother. So I think that is, I'm going to probably recategorize that as likely false. The reason I'm putting it as likely false, because I would like to see it happen. It'd be cool. But I think judging by what I know about Sandor Clegane, he's kind of going more towards peace. But I think there's still an opportunity for Clegane Bowl to happen. Right. Joffrey and Tommen are legit. That's absolutely false in my eyes. I think they're both Jaime Lannister's children. The hair, I think the fact that Robert and Cersei, I don't think seem to have slept together before. I don't think Cersei liked Robert and liked sleeping with him. Obviously, there was Robert and all his whores and all the other women. But the fact that Jaime and Cersei were absolutely sleeping together when she was with Robert. And I think the fact that Ned Stark built a whole theory and the first book around this, I think there's enough evidence to suggest that Joffrey and Tommen are not legit and are Jaime's. I think you could probably even argue that Marcella's Jaime's as well because of the hair. The Mountain is a good guy. I think it's a really shit theory. I don't know why that's there. Right, let's I'm going to have to read up a few of these. Lemongate, I don't know too much about. Euron is a fraud. That's a fantastic theory in my eyes. Right, let's end on... Right, let's just kind of pick a few more of these. So, new Aegon is legit, likely false, because we've got Fagon is a Blackfire in likely true when we went through that in episode 1. I'll link that in the description after this goes live. Oh, there's some absolute bangers on here. Rhaego is alive. I think that is false as well. I think that's categorically false. Right, what can we end on? That's not like an absolute game changer. Ramsay castrated Theon. That's likely true. What have we got? What have we got? So Elena poisoned Joffrey. So that, for me, that kind of ties in with what we spoke about before with Elena and Peter Baelish poisoning Joffrey. And I think we can put that Joffrey had a food allergy. I think the cooks would know about that. Right, folks, I think we're going to wrap it up with there. We've got some absolute bangers to go through on the next episode. Join us. I think we're going to have to do this next Sunday. So join us next Sunday, probably around 6 p.m. UK time, which is about 1 p.m. EST, I think. It's been great to have you with us. If you joined us in the chat, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the comments. And I'll catch you on the next one in part 3 of our Song of Ice and Fire tier list theory